For most of the things we face, there are ups and there are downs. There are big waves, there are little waves. There's light, there's shade. When the difficult times come, knowing that they won't be here forever does give us some hope to hang in there.
Get your daily dose of motivation on the Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast. In Motivation with Michelle podcast, you'll get encouraging, uplifting, and life-changing wisdom that will transform your world at your fingertips, 24 hours a day. Get a fuller, deeper revelation of the tools you can implement to see incredible transformation in your life from Michelle Newstetter's powerful teachings. Tune in whenever you need to be edified, uplifted, or a dose of motivation, no matter where you are. Subscribe to Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast with Michelle Newstetter today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud.
Hey there, welcome. Come on in. I want to have a little chat with you today. The thing is that this morning I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues, and we started to talk a little bit about storms and all of the things that we've all had to walk through. We've kind of been in one big, gigantic storm over the past couple years, right? Where in the course of that storm, there was moments where the waves were huge and they felt overwhelming and it was like this insurmountable thing. There was other moments where the waves were a little bit smaller and it felt like, okay, I can manage this, I can navigate this. And then all of a sudden another big gale force wind blows in and those waves get big again and it feels really overwhelming, but it's all the same storm. We've all been stuck in the same storm. And you know what? Some people are fascinated, absolutely fascinated with storms. Whether it's like me, I love to every day check the weather. I watch the videos that show up on my weather. You know, there's those people who love to chase storms, or people who just love to watch the news reports all about all the storms. What is it about storms that just fascinates us? When you think about it, storms are this powerful, unpredictable force. Sometimes they're devastating, but there's this sense that we just cannot control them. They take on a life of their own. I'm even almost convinced that the older that we get, the control issue becomes a real challenge for us, right? The fact that we cannot control the storms in our lives, just like we cannot control a real storm. I think that we want to feel like we have control over our lives. We want to feel like we have control over our lives today as we walk through whatever's happening today. We want to feel like we have control over whatever is going to come at us in the future. But just like storms that come into our atmosphere, our weather, sometimes you just have no control over what happens. And no matter how much planning you do, you are not going to be able to really truly figure out what you're going to do when the storm hits. You know what? You can watch the storm kind of coming in. Sometimes we can see them as they're rolling in. We can talk about them. We can write about them. We can live through them, but we can't control them. We can only control ourselves. And the more, say, anxious or worried that we become, the more we want to try and gain back that control over situations that cannot be controlled. And a lot of the things that we worry about, they're possibilities. They are things that could happen in our world. And that being powerless is a really sinking feeling that we can have. And a lot of the inaction in our lives is due to this paralysis that comes by our circumstances and not feeling like I can do anything about it, like I can make any difference in this. We might go into those this always happens to me mindset, or jeepers, I feel like I never get a break, or nothing good ever happens to me. Sometimes we'll say things like, of course, I knew it would never last. It's easy to be grateful when things are going well, when the bank account is full, when the kids are behaving. But even in difficulty, we can find things that we can be grateful for. Storms show us that real joy comes in the hard, not after. All those defeatist, fatalistic things that we say to ourselves when the storms of life appear seemingly out of nowhere can cause us to cave under the pressure and that sense that we have no control. I've talked to many people over the past few years who've expressed all the concerns about what's been going on in their lives, financially, socially, politically, all of the different challenges that we've all had to face. And the fact that there is so much pressure to perform in a certain way, it all weighs on us. These are all like legitimate, real storms in people's lives. And we can crumble under the weight and give up sometimes. You know, we feel like we just need to like batten down the hatches, pretend like it doesn't exist, hide away in my hidey hole, hope that it's just gonna pass. And in life, I mean, there's gonna be storms. There's gonna be big storms, there's gonna be small storms. You know, there's gonna be challenges in our relationships, in our finances, in our health, in our morals and ethics. There's gonna be challenges that are all gonna be put to test at some point in time. These are the moments that build character. They show us who we truly are, and they give us some clarity as to what we possess and what we lack, like where we need to grow. Truth is, none of us want to go through storms. If only every day could be just sunshine and clear skies. Those are the kinds of days that we all want, and often the kinds of days that we think we're entitled to. Storms are actually pretty vital for us. You know, we talk about sunshine and rainbows, right? You can't have a rainbow without rain. You can't have a rainbow without a storm. And even in the like research on like plants and their sustainability and things like that, they have to go through storms and wind and pressure in order to be able to stand tall and strong. You know, and I find that one of the things that I found myself talking through even today was this idea that in life, there's going to be challenges, right? There's going to be things that come up, and we can try and plan to death. And we waste all this time trying to figure out how we're going to navigate if the worst case scenario happens. But you know what? If you've ever had to like really truly walk through a crisis or trauma in your life, the thing about the human mind is that when we get there, when we have to face something super big, we figure it out. So if we can hang on tight and know that the storm will stop at some point, it helps us to navigate through it. Of course, for some of our storms, there isn't what looks like an end in sight, and we don't know if it's going to end. But for most of the things we face, there are ups and there are downs. There are big waves, there are little waves. There's light, there's shade. When the difficult times come, knowing that they won't be here forever does give us some hope to hang in there. And I know that something like this COVID right now, right? It feels like there's no end in sight, but this too shall end. We have to sometimes find a port in the storm. Having somewhere or someone that you can go to in order to get shelter from the storm is critical. Nobody can ride out a storm continuously alone. We need people. And that's one of the things that we've been lacking all this time. You need to find some space. You need to find some peace. You need to find some refuge. That may mean reaching out to somebody else or having some time off. When we reach out to people, when we take that time to rest, it's not giving up. It's not weakness. It actually requires strength. And just know that there is purpose in the storm. This is the hardest thing in life, to see purpose in what happens, to be able to make sense of what life is throwing at us, why we're having to go through another difficult year? Why more of this? Why another that? Why is this constantly happening to me? The only way I've ever been able to come to terms with the storms in my life is to find the point in them, to be able to look back, to have that reflection time, to look at the growth points. I've talked about like forgiveness and some of the tools that I've used for that. And it was a reflection piece as well. And that ability to go, man, I got something out of that relationship. And it taught me a little bit about who I want to be or who I didn't want to be. I know for some of you, it seems the storm is never ending, but I hope you'll be able to hang in there in whatever way you need, that you're going to find some solace and that there will be some sense of why this is going on in your world, that you might be able to move through it, find some sunny moments or sunny days, knowing that as the storm ebbs and flows and when the next storm hits, that you're going to be more equipped to move through it more effectively. The only way to be great at something, including life, is through experience. When we are in the middle of a storm, we are gaining invaluable experience. We are learning what pain and heartache feels like. We are gaining insight into suffering and joy. This not only helps us in the future, but it builds inside of us a compassion for those that are going through similar things. To have compassion is to possess a great gift. So we need to be able to use that. Thank you so much for joining me today. Know that you can also read through some of this information on my blog, as well as you can get this as a podcast on your favorite podcast provider if you look for Motivation Moments with Michelle. Plus, if you want to get like the weekly inspiration to your inbox, go to michellenewsitter.com/WednesdayWisdom.html. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll be back with you next week.